Hello and welcome to this inaugural podcast episode where we ask the simple question, is this a good movie? I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, for our first episode, I gave you the honors of choosing a movie that we could watch and we could talk about. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is and what it's about?
So, the movie that I chose for this introductory episode was Zhang Yimou's movie Shadow. And it's, I want to say, I believe it's sort of a stylized retelling of a feudal war legend that also goes into some Chinese Chinese high fantasy, for lack of a better way of putting it, because that's really the best way to describe the wuxia genre of Asian films. It's
Yes.
kind of like Asian high fantasy.
Well, it's specifically Chinese high fantasy, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Because I think Japan has their specific genre, and so I think Taiwan has theirs as well. So I think this is strictly a Chinese one. And is it Zhang Yimou? Is what you call? Is it how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. Zhang Yimou has been making movies that have been coming stateside for now about 30 years. He first made it to the States with a movie in the 1990s called Raise the Red Lantern. And it's still his most celebrated film. But I think most would possibly know him by the movie Hero with Jet Li that came out in 2002? 2003?
I believe so. I'd have to probably look it up.
Yeah. And to me, he kind of fell off the map because I kind of forgot he was still making movies. I don't know if it's because his films have not been coming stateside or they've just had smaller, more niche releases. But when you told me about this, I was like, oh, it's a Zhang Yimou film? Okay, I'm in. Because I saw Hero in the theaters when it came out and loved it. Thought it was a beautiful looking movie. So I was looking forward to seeing Shadow. Like you mentioned, it's a play on ancient Chinese history. Is that what it is?
It's kind of semi based in some of the legends of Chinese history, but I think the setting and kingdom are definitely fictional.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, when you watch, that's obvious. And with some of the things they do in the movie. Okay. So let's just get down to it, really. When you watch a Zhang Yimou film now, it's filled with action. It's got a lot of beautiful set pieces, great choreography, and I think that's the exact same thing you should expect with Shadow. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to your mention of Zhang Yimou's sort of falling off the map,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think that's partly due to just his history with releases has been sort of up and down because you have some of the great things like Raise the Red Lantern and Hero, but then you have real stinkers like The Great Wall with Matt
Oh,
Damon. So you've got kind of like an up and down seesaw thing going. Some of his more recent releases over the years.
I was not gonna mention the Great Wall, just to give the guy some for people not to be like, oh no. But yeah, he did do that. But that was of his filmography, though. I think that might be the only one that I would consider bad. I think the rest of his films are great to solid. I would say if you're into that type of film, I would say that you can't go wrong with a Zhang Yimou film. So let's get right into what we thought of the movie. I think just based off the movie alone, not comparing it to anything else, I think it's a solid movie. It, like Yimou's other films, it's beautiful looking. It's actually shot well in color, but it's given a black and white tint where you can only really see flesh color tones in red when it's accentuated, especially when it comes to the beginning scene where they show the guy's wound on his chest. Like you can see the blood and you can see the wound opening, and it's disgusting to watch, but you can see the color and it's accentuated very well. The choice to give the movie a wet, rainy, kind of dreary look, I think, was a good choice. Like aesthetically and visually wise, I think it's very good. It's solid. Like you can watch a trailer and you'll know what you're gonna get when you see it. And I think the best parts of the movie aren't in the trailer. So I would say just visual wise, it's very good.
Yeah. So, and I kind of felt the same way. It wasn't like it wasn't like an overwhelmingly great movie, but it was a good and solid movie in my opinion as well too. And I'm with you that I love sort of the wet and rainy look that kind of permeates the entire film, and also the decision to mostly shoot in sort of a grayscale like tint,
Mhm.
except for big thematic moments, like when there's a battle and blood is shed and stuff like that, and you see the redness of the blood. Uh, that kind of made for the usual trademark color theming that Zhang Yimou's most famous for, because I think when Hero came out and Hero had like each chapter with its own thematic color,
Yes.
that was one thing that I just loved from just a cinematography point, because I was
Mhm.
just like, wow, holy cow, just this is kind of a unique way of sort of delineating each chapter by just saying, hey, this chapter is going to be primarily in this color to kind of show off the significance of the events that are going to happen in this chapter. And to see that the use of color in this movie is mostly limited to just significant events sort of brought back that same feeling of, wow, okay, there's a reason why that color is being shown here, because you've got an important duel going on, an
Right.
important battle going on, or something like that.
And it brings an impact to the battles in this movie. And to be honest, and we should probably point this out, this movie is mostly dialogue driven until the last third of the movie, where all the battles happen. So not only is there a build up to where it's mostly a lot of political strife and some okay character development, but it leads to those battles, which with the visual style, it makes those battles, I would say, satisfying in the end when you get to the get to some of the fight scenes and to some of the medium scale battles in the movie. I want to point out, when I saw this movie was unrated, I have to check and see if I can see a film if it's because if it's excessively gory or it's got something that I object to, I don't watch it. When I went to IMDb, they gave their blood and gore rating severe, which is the highest rating you give something, to say that this is excessively gory. And I've got to say, this isn't excessively gory or bloody at all. Like when I watch it, I'm like, this isn't bad. This is like the most that you get out of when it comes to blood is that when someone gets stabbed, they do the audible hiss like they do in some Asian movies when it comes to bloodletting. Go, oh, psh, like that.
Yeah.
And it's more comical than anything to me. So when I saw that, and that was the big objection, I was like, that's not bad. Come on. And even before that, when they slice throats or they they stab. They show blood, but it's not. I think honestly, the one part that I kind of not cringed, but the one part that I kind of had to look back a little was the beginning scene where the commander was stabbing his shadow to replicate the wound that he has. Like, that was like the only time where I'm like, and that was it. So I just want to mention that if you go in and you read that this is really gory or bloody, it really isn't. It's, if you've seen, let's say, if you've seen Django Unchained or any Tarantino film when it comes to blood, it's like that. It's kind of comical. It's kind of outrageous or stylized, but it's not excessive. Maybe, or I'll put it, it's excessive in the way where it's in the ridiculous side. So I would say that. I don't know if you would agree or not, but
Oh yeah, I would probably agree.
okay. Let's see. I think right now we'll get into spoilers. So, spoilers, if you haven't seen Shadow, we are going to spoil the movie, and we're going to discuss certain things in the movie, specifically, to me, the ending. That if you want to skip this part, you can. I'll put a photo up there that will say spoilers, so you don't get spoiled on anything, and then I'll revert back to the poster of the movie. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you know when to skip and go back and forth. So yeah, in 5, we'll count to 5, and then we'll go to spoiler talk. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I had one problem with the film, and the problem I had was the ending. And before I get into that, I want to know what you thought of the ending of the film.
The ending, while neat, it also leaves so much to ambiguity because I remember I was watching it with a friend, and pretty much just me and my friend were sort of at odds with how we felt things closed up, because it's just kind of like you've got the Lord who gets killed, and then you have the general who gets killed, and then the shadow and the general's former wife are the only people alive in the chamber, and he pretty much exits the chamber, and then you see just kind of a bunch of guards sort of walk up to the chamber, and the shadow basically says, as the king and the lord are dead, or excuse me, the lord and the general are dead, long live the lord. And then just they start marching towards the chamber, and of course the general's former wife is just kind of in fear of what's going to happen to her, and then the doors sort of close, and that's sort of it. And it just leaves a lot that's open to interpretation, and it was a bit unsatisfying, for me at least. And then, of course, me and my friend who had watched it, we were just kind of like just wondering, hey, does she get blamed as being part of this whole conspiracy, or do they just let her go?
Well,
just what happened?
Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think they're going to still... Everyone still thinks the Shadow is actually the commander. So I think what I got out of it was that the Shadow will continue to be the commander. The wife will have to pretend and live in this hell where she's going to have to pretend to be this man's wife. Yeah. And then that was kind of it. No one sees the actual commander, who is in that disguise, who killed the Lord. And that's one problem I had. The surprise of the commander being in disguise and killing the Lord was unsatisfying to me, because the guy had a limp or had a hunchback throughout the movie, except in that one scene where you see him with the box, giving it to the king. He doesn't have a hunch, so it kind of it kind of destroyed that gotcha moment in a way. That was
definitely an inconsistency there.
Yes, that was my big issue with the ending. I thought the fight scenes were great. I thought the way they were making the twist. I think if they kept the twist being the commander the entire time was going to kill the shadow to make sure no one knew that he had a shadow, then I think I would have been satisfied and been like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's an interesting story. I would have liked that. But I think they went one twist too many to then have me question exactly why they went that route. And you really have to strain yourself to be, like I said, you had to strain yourself into believing that twist was possible. Because the minute, to me, the minute an assassin comes and has a hunchback and he didn't before, I think most people would be like, huh, why does that assassin have a hunchback?
Yeah.
So, and with him not having it, and then suddenly once he kills the Lord, he has the hunchback again. I'm like, I don't know if okay. Like it was really straining for me to be like, that kind of sucks. I didn't enjoy that part. I mean, the ending doesn't ruin the movie for me. I think it's solid. It is a solid, entertaining film with great visuals, some good fight scenes. Not great fight scenes, but good fight scenes. I think what they did with the umbrella weapon was interesting. I wouldn't say it's badass, or I wouldn't say I think it's like awesome, but I think it's like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I get it. Neat. But I'm not blown away like I was in Hero. I'll put it that way. Or in something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I know is a different movie altogether in a different genre. But yeah. But yeah. I mean, again, not knowing that Zhang Yimou was making movies still and watching that was a nice treat. I will say that. So I would say do we have more that we want to spoil, or?
No. I think for me, the duel choreography I thought was really cool. Mostly because it's solid choreography. It's not the best, like some of the greats that you had mentioned, like Hero and Crouching Tiger and everything. But it was still solid choreography nonetheless.
I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The war combat scenes were kind of okay. Wasn't really great. Really, the only thing that stood out in sort of the war scenes were more just the use of color. That's what made those scenes sort of stand out.
Of course, yes. Yeah, the war scene. There was only that one battle scene, right, where they were coming out in the hill, and they were rolling it down the hill in those umbrella weapons.
Yep, and then also kind of like that sort of leading up to the assault and everything, where they were in that hidden boat trying to get to the hill and everything. Sort of trying to prep to start storming that one fiefdom and everything, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was surprised by how rudimentary the choreography was in the one-on-one scene with the commander and the general from the opposing side. I wasn't I wasn't particularly impressed by it. I think it was good. It just wasn't like they built that fight up and up and up in the movie, thinking it has to be this ultra climactic battle, and it's good, but it's not great. Um, yeah, I mean, I come back on it and just I guess the more I talk about it, I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but it's just not. I guess knowing from what I know of Yimou's other films, I guess I was surprised. I liked the political intrigue more than I liked the battle scenes. I think is what I'm coming back out of.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because I kind of felt the same way as well too. I was just like, just this whole conspiracy and everything, that was really interesting. Um, the duels, while good, uh, they weren't the thing um, that there was constant buildup over,
Mm.
and and the war scene, while while okay, there's really the importance of the duel or the war scenes was really more the use of color than the battle itself and everything. But yeah, just I kind of came away from the movie much like you going, I kind of wish they went a little bit a little bit more in depth into the whole conspiracy thing because the conspiracy and political intrigue was just fascinating.
Yes, I think the there's two things in the movie that I wish they kind of delved into more. I know this would have made this movie a lot longer, so I'm aware of that, and that may not have been a good idea. But two things I think they should have delved into more: the relationship between the Shadow and the wife, and the issue with the princess being a concubine. The princess being auctioned off to the I think it was the general's son from the opposing side, not as a wife but as a concubine. I think if they would have I think if they delved more into that character, I think it would have more of an impact of what happened to her at the end. But just with it being a standard kind of revenge thing, even though they kind of mentioned in the movie that it was really just a political ploy to get him to back off a little, but it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
I mean, there could have been more ways to go in that route that they didn't, but I don't exactly know what exactly they could have done without maybe cutting certain scenes or expanding the movie more where it may not have been necessary. So I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and the whole princess being a concubine thing, it's kind of more something more on the Chinese historical side
Yeah.
because it's kind of much like the same thing you would see in some of the European royalty where you would send off a daughter to another kingdom to basically say, hey, let's make a truce agreement and to represent a pact of the agreement, your son's going to marry my wife, or my daughter's. Your son's going to marry my daughter, um, and that way, as long as you guys are married, then this truce pact is still active, and basically the children become a living pact.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where more of that comes into. But yeah, just um, it's sort of more of a historical thing. But yeah, even still, just it seemed like it was pretty much a repeat of that of hey, just we want we don't want the general ransacking our little kingdom, so we're going to have the princess basically married to the general's son. That way, just as long as they're married and or as long as he treats her well, even though she's a concubine, it's still good because we still have a pact going on.
Yeah. I wonder if, and maybe we'll close on this. I wonder if they decided to edit this movie down to an hour 30 and streamline the movie more. Maybe take out the concubine princess part, take out the maybe take out the wife itself, other than for maybe some ancillary things in the movie. That if they just tighten it up to an hour 30, maybe it would have had more of an impact. Because I'm thinking about, although I like where it was going, I kind of think that expanding this movie to 2 hours and 30 minutes may have been to its detriment. Maybe cutting it down to an hour 30 might have been better off. Like, give it a zippy, kind of fast, I don't know. Maybe giving it a faster pace may have helped the movie, but I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say whether or not the movie expanding some of the pieces with a longer runtime might have been better, or if just condensing it down to be a little bit more shorter and sweeter may have helped. So I'm with you there. Just it's very hard to kind of put what would have made this movie better. And uh, again, it's much like you. I think it's a good and solid movie, but
Mhm.
yeah, it just feels like that if a little bit more care and a little bit more attention was put into it, that this would have potentially been a great movie.
Yeah, like, I go back to Hero. And Hero, for all of how epic the visuals are and how great the fight scenes are, is a personal story. And it's one of those movies that made a personal character study like movie seem epic, and it worked so beautifully. Not just because of the visuals, but what they did in the movie with the character of Nameless. So I don't. So yeah, it may the movie may have needed some tuning up, but it's not a bad movie. It's solid. It's a solid movie. So why don't we close this off and just say our last words on the film? Why don't you start?
Overall, I think Shadow's a solid movie. The fight choreography and the duels is good, not great, and the war scenes, they while they aren't anything special, really the importance of the theming with the rare use of color in the movie overall makes the war scenes a little bit important to that end. But overall, I would still probably recommend folks to give Shadow a watch because I still think it's just a good movie.
Yeah, I agree. For the most part, I think visually it's solid. It's very good. I like the colors. I like how they shot the movie. I like the mood, the ambiance that they gave. The fight scenes are good. The one war scene is good. Could be better. I'm a little disappointed by the ending, but I'm not. But it doesn't. It doesn't damper my enjoyment much of the film. It just makes me wish it was better. But it's a solid movie. So is this a good movie? Yes, I think it's a good movie. Is it up there with the best of Zhang Yimou's films? No, it's not. But it's still a solidly entertaining movie. So Zero.
Yeah.
At this point, we will talk about what we're going to be watching next and what we're going to be reviewing next.
Oh.
So, but instead of saying to you, you're watching this movie, I'm going to give you some options. And the way I'm going to give you these options is I'm not going to tell you what the movies are, but we're going to play a little word association game. I'm going to say a word, and you decide which word you like better. And as we go down, we'll find out what the movie is once we get that singular movie that you have selected. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. Let's start with 50s or 70s?
50s.
Okay. Shakespeare or Austen?
I'm a sucker for Shakespeare, so that's where I'll be going.
Okay. That is a little disappointing, but I can deal with that. I like Shakespeare too, but I'm a big Jane Austen mark.
Ah,
Yeah. Astronaut or politician?
mm. Um, gonna have to go with astronauts since I like sciencey movies.
Okay.
Political movies, well, fine. They're just not my cup of tea mostly.
Good. Okay. Good. Quirky or horror?
Mhm. Quirky, since
Good.
horror I have to be in a mood for.
Okay. Good enough. Black and white or color?
Oh, that's tough. Um, since I've been on sort of a weird historical appreciation, black and white.
Comics or novel?
Personally, this one's a
Okay. Detective or boardroom?
detective.
Working class or law enforcement?
Working class.
Okay. Play or documentary?
I'll play.
Ooh, that hurts. Okay. Okay, we're getting there. Ensemble or one actor?
Hmm. Uh, ensemble.
Okay. Drama or comedy?
Drama.
Ooh, that hurts. Okay. Okay. No, that's cool. That's cool. Dark or light?
Um, dark.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I think you're going to get hurt by this one. Okay, we're down to 3. So I'll give you 3 options. Choose one, and you got your movie. Okay? France, England, or other planet?
France.
France? Okay, so for our next episode, we are going to watch the recent movie from Wes Anderson called The French Dispatch. Do you know who Wes Anderson is?
I do not actually.
Okay, Wes Anderson is a very quirky comedic director. He did movies like Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums. He did recently The Grand Budapest Hotel. They're singular vision movies, but they are quirky, but they're funny. So we'll see if you enjoy this. So it's on HBO Max right now, but it's called The French Dispatch.
Okay. Yeah, thankfully, my AT&T fiber ISP gives me HBO Max for free, so this should
Good for
be easy
you.
to watch.
Not like us plebs who have to pay for it. Here, let me get the link for you. Now, I said earlier that you're going to get hurt by this because one of the options you had in the top 3 or the top 5 was Chungking Express.
Mm.
Have you seen that movie?
It has been years since I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it and I want to, but I would figure you have seen it. But anyway, this I've heard is a good movie. I think we should watch this. The French Dispatch. Oh, well, it's probably not going to give you that exactly. I'll find the trailer. But anyway, tune in next week for our next review of The French Dispatch, Wes Anderson's comedy that was done in 2021. I am The Wiz.
I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next time.